I stayed up until 10 p.m. watching some YouTube stuff on my laptop. To the right was a queue of clips waiting to start playing. I was watching a clip of one of my favorite basketball players, Larry Big Al Johnson. The clip showed a long-range throw at the last second. A clean throw. With his long blonde hair pulled back into a ponytail, he looked like a movie star. I've known Big L since college. He was a famous player on the team, and he had an apartment in my building. We saw each other quite often, especially in the off-season. When he turned pro, he was drafted by the Wizards, the team closest to my home in Virginia. 3 years ago, he retired from the NBA. He is now a game presenter for Wiz TV. I watched his videos because I indulged in some nostalgia. The next video had nothing to do with basketball. It was a news clip. In it, Big Al danced with a beautiful blonde. They were at a club in Miami. The dance was overtly sexual. The blonde was my wife. The clip was filmed that evening and has just been published. The headline read, "Big Al, Another Conquest." I watched to the end, about 3 minutes. The dance ended and Big Al and Lee, my wife, were captured in a passionate full-body kiss. I downloaded the clip. I picked up the phone and called Lee's cell phone. Doesn't answer. After checking the time on the clip, I saw that it was filmed about an hour earlier and had just been posted. Lee was supposed to be at a business meeting in Miami, a 4-day conference with several people from her advertising firm. One of these people was my good friend Bart Kovacs. I called him. He replied, "Hello, Bart. This is Lee Martin. That's my name, but I call myself Marty." I heard a pause, then, "Marty, how are you?" "Not very good, Bart. Do you even know where Lee is now?" "Man, this is crap. So, she's with Big L?" "Bart, I need information. She has taken over YouTube. In the morning, my children will see it, and so will everyone else in the world. I need to know if she is having sex with him and has been having sex with him all this time." They stayed there for 3 days and were due back tomorrow afternoon. They got hooked on Tuesday when we arrived. We checked in and they got to know each other. Probably from college. She comes to meetings during the day, but he doesn't eat with us. Her roommate says she wasn't there for a single night. I'm guessing she's having sex with a guy. We all assume this. I'm so sorry, Marty. Me too. Will you see her in the morning? She has to catch a plane. I think I'll see. She comes to morning meetings, not breakfast. I think she might be at the hotel, just in some other room. Okay, tell her not to bother coming home. If she was even going to do it, he also lives here. I don't want to get into this with her. If she asks, I'll tell her. Fair. See you. Lee and I met in college when we were both in our 20s. We were in our penultimate year and were taking math classes. On the first day, I walked into class, looked around, and saw the most beautiful woman I had ever laid eyes on. She just sat and drew in her notebook. There were only 5 other students there, all boys. But she was sitting alone. I sat down at the desk next to her. She looked at me. Well, I see someone was smart enough to take this place. I was already wondering if I smelled something funny. I looked at the other guys. They were all nerds, and, most likely, very shy. I wasn't a nerd, even though I was in a math class. My height is 1.73 meters, weight 68 kilograms, brown eyes, brown hair. I don't look too bad. The women seemed okay with me, if not taken aback. I used to be told that I have character. I answered, "You don't smell funny," although I have to move closer to really tell. They're all shy nerds. Aren't you a botanist? I see. No, I'm Lee Moore. She extended her hand. We shook hands. I'm Lee Martin. When we get married, you won't even have to change the monogram on your luggage and handkerchiefs. How convenient, she smiled, and the teacher entered the room. After class, Lee and I walked together to the Student Union building. She was a green-eyed blonde, 6 feet tall, with an average figure, large breasts, and just the beautiful face of a girl from the next street. When she smiled at me, I was truly captivated. I said, "I bet you were surprised when none of the guys in class sat next to you. Because every guy would like to sit next to you." "Thank you." I was surprised. "Mostly I have to fight off guys. You took advantage of my insecurities, and now I really can't talk you out of it. I have another lesson in 20 minutes, but I'd like to invite you to dinner." Maybe tonight. Since we study in the same class, we should get to know each other better. No dinner, sorry. I have a permanent man and he won't like it. I had to try. Well, I hope to see you again. Me too. I like you. At least we'll see each other in class. We saw each other in class twice a week. The subject was difficult and I had to work hard. One day I asked her a question about some problem and she explained everything to me. After class, I asked her if she had any problems with the course. No, I'm good at mathematics. And you? I need to take it for my chemistry major, but I spend a lot of time on it. Maybe you could give me some advice. What is this? A joke? I told you I have a boyfriend. No, I respect that. I just need help. We can sit in a diner and go over subjects as if you were my tutor. Fine. Diner at 4 in Laws. Agreed. During the meetings at the diner, I got to know Lee much better. She and I hit it off. We talked about many other things, not just mathematics. One day, a large guy approached our table, on which books were laid out. Lee looked up at him and smiled her killer smile. Marty, this is my boyfriend, Rashad. Rashad, this is Marty from my math class. I stood up and we shook hands. Rashad was a black man with a medium build, perhaps 5'8" tall and weighing 100 kilograms. He sat down next to Lee. We closed our math books, and Rashad wanted to know why I was taking this class with Lee and all those nerds. I need an upper-level mathematics course for my chemistry major. This will also help me in programming. The three of us then started discussing why some majors required outside courses that didn't seem to fit. The discussion was interesting. Rashad was a smart guy. I asked about his specialization. Physical training. I play hockey but want to teach high school unless I can make money from hockey. I could become a physical education teacher. Good plan. Better than mine. Chemists are actually hired, as well as programmers. I just don't know who exactly. What about you, Lee? I want to do business. I'm studying business. I like the idea of making money. As the semester went on, I saw more and more of Lee. I had an off-campus apartment, and one day I invited her and Rashad to dinner. He also invited his neighbor Stephanie, a high school graduate and simply a beauty. She and I had a friends with benefits type of relationship. Dinner went quite well. I made fish stew, spinach salad, and we ate cookies and ice cream. The women drank wine. Rashad and I our beer. Lee and Rashad left around midnight after we played some bridge. Surprisingly, all four of them liked the game. There was real competition, even though none of us had played as a pair before. Rashad and Stephanie were one team. Lee and I were another. It turned out that Lee was into some strange bidding systems, and I adopted it. Gradually, we pulled away and won. Stephanie stayed the night. She was attractive and passionate, but we both knew that being fuck buddies was all we were going to be. She had a boyfriend in her hometown. I never asked her what he thought of us. That evening was somewhat fateful because Lee asked me to play in a backup bridge tournament at the army base. I agreed. Meanwhile, Stephanie happened to have Rashad's phone number. She probably got it at the dinner, but unnoticed. I saw them together about 2 days after dinner. They walked across campus towards our building. I followed them for a short distance. They went inside. I followed them in. They were just entering the elevator. She lived on the 4th floor. The elevator stopped there. So what should I do? The bridge tournament was on Friday, 2 days later. I just went to my room and relaxed, near the window, reading and observing what is happening. About 2 hours later, he came out the front door. Rashad. I quickly walked to Stephanie's door and knocked. She shouted something and didn't open it right away. She looked flushed and was wearing flip-flops and a tight dress, no bra. Hi, Steph. Don't need a company? Not now, Marty. Oh, damn, Marty. You saw it all. The way you came here, you've seen. Yeah. Well, did you have fun? Maybe it's mean on Shad's part. I would feel awkward about it, but I don't feel awkward now. I feel great. Sorry. Don't worry, I'm thinking about what to do in this situation. I just hope you don't ruin the relationship between Lee and Rashad. He's just fun for me. Just like you. Well, not even as much as you. If you were in Lee's situation, would you want to know that Shad did something wrong? Yes, me too. The bridge tournament was a lot of fun. The army team was very good at cards, but Lee and I took third place out of 20 on our side. Not bad. She said we got points, whatever that means. As we walked to my car, she asked me, "Why didn't you tell me about Shad and Steph?" He did not decide. "How did you know?" "Steph told Rashad that you know everything." Then he initiated a discussion about it. "Sorry, curiosity took over, and I saw them. What happened during the conversation?" "We decided to cool relations for a few weeks. Let's see how we feel." "Oh, okay. Marty, I want you to take me to your place. If you want, of course." "Oh, I want to." I drove, perhaps not as carefully as usual, toward the building. I parked and we quickly walked into the apartment. When the door was closed, Lee kissed me passionately. A slow, hot kiss. She moved her body back and forth against mine. I pressed my excited manhood into her stomach. She pulled away, grabbed me and pulled me into the bedroom. I tore off my shirt and pants, including my underwear. Lee was already without a dress, without sandals, only in panties. I knelt down and slowly pulled them down and took them off. Sex with Lee was amazing. I brought her to climax twice, and the third time she reached the finish line with me. Oh God, Marty. Oh my God, I believed her. I always thought that she and I were right for each other. The size of my manhood in pants is not very large, just average. Well, maybe a little larger than I would expect for my size. I was thinking about how to satisfy a woman and I had some success, including this night. Lee rested for a while and then began to excite my manhood. Very sensitive. I answered her the same. It worked very well. She reached a strong climax. I immediately followed her. We lay there for 20 minutes, gently caressing each other. I stood up to empty my bladder. She followed me. "Shower?" she asked in a sexy voice. We took a long shower where I pressed her against the smooth wall and had her. Then we washed ourselves. We returned to bed and fell asleep. In the morning, I got up and brushed my teeth. Lee came in just as I was finishing. I gave her a spare toothbrush. After we got rid of my morning breath, we took care of my morning excitement. At breakfast, Lee asked, "Am I as good as Stephanie? Am I as good as Shed?" We stared at each other, then she grinned. "He's bigger, but you're better. Steph is very good, but you're fantastic." From that day, we were with each other. Lee practically moved in with me. Rashad was against it, but he couldn't do anything. Either way, it didn't take him long to find the other main one. He also visited Stephanie often. During his senior year, Big Al moved into this building and also lived on the 4th floor. Sometimes I saw him with Stephanie. He didn't move in with her, but they were often seen coming and going together. We said hi and bye, until one day Steph invited us over for dessert. Big Al was there too. We had a pleasant evening. I thought Big Al was polite and smart, and perhaps a little too considerate of Lee. Perhaps Steph felt the same way since we were no longer invited. Lee and I got married at age 20, right out of college. I got a job in the government, in the Pentagon, as a programmer. Lee found a job at a public relations firm. She mainly did advertising for companies. Advertising was supposed to influence the government, senators, congressmen, and agency representatives. I inherited a house from my grandfather, not far from work. It was rented out and the lease had expired. We moved into it. The house had 3 bedrooms, a large kitchen, a garage converted into living space, and a finished basement. That's what needed to be worked on. I did this job with the help of one of my high school friends who had a construction business in Virginia. Lee became pregnant, and at age 22, we had twin daughters, Betsy and Linda. They're not identical, but they're just a pain in the ass. Lee took a year off and I cut back on my work to give the twins the attention they needed. At the end of that year, I switched to contractor status, which meant I could work from home. Lee returned to work part-time. When the girls turned 4, she went full-time. By that time, I had established a daily routine with them, and work as a contractor was going very well. I made more money, but without benefits. Lee's work became increasingly intense, largely because she allowed it to. She had driven and achieved a lot. My work depended more on creativity. Some of this work went to the government. But something was directly for me. I had 2 new ideas for systems that I thought could be profitable. I've been fiddling with them for quite some time. Lee made good money. At the age of 13, the girls entered primary school. I was 35 and in good shape. I ran and played table tennis. I know, doesn't sound too onerous. Try it yourself sometime, against good players. Before I saw Lee on video with Big L, I would have said that our sex life was very enjoyable, at least for me. On the other hand, we have been together for 15 years. I didn't think we were stale, but I think Lee believed it. I looked up where Big Al lived, about 3 miles north of us. I was wondering if what I saw in Miami was something new, or if it had been going on for a long time. I also asked myself some other questions. I asked the girls to do a DNA smear, and I did it myself. This was the day after I informed them about the YouTube video. I felt I had to do this to protect them from being ambushed at school. It was Friday and they had to go to school. They had tests and group classes. At 10, Lee called. I saw it was her and let it go to voicemail. "Marty, pick up the phone, Marty, please. Marty, I love you. I made a mistake. I'll be back this afternoon. Oh, damn. You could hear her sobbing. One of the improvements I made to the house was an electronic entry system. I changed the code. The converted garage lay idle. It was furnished. I carried Lee's clothes and other necessary things there. I just put everything there. My mother called, and so did Lee's mother. Everyone wanted to know what I would do. I didn't know, and I told them so. I opened Lee's Gmail account and scrolled through a month's worth of emails, old and new. I checked the trash can. No contact with Big L. There were a few emails about work and a conference. 1 or 2 gave some kind of tip, but only from a guy from her work who was also going to Miami. Lee's plane was scheduled to land at noon. I didn't answer any of her calls. I asked to go to a friend's airport to keep an eye on who was getting off the plane and the whole situation. He saw Lee go out with her work contingent. She looked around. He was filming a video on his phone and went to get her luggage. He remained at the exit. 5 minutes after the rest of the people had disembarked, Big Lee came out. He also looked around and went towards the baggage claim. My friend followed him. Lee held her suitcase and looked around. She saw Big L, turned and left. Big Al took his suitcase and went outside. Lee was waiting for a taxi. Big Al walked up to her and spoke. She shook her head, refusing. A taxi arrived and the dispatcher put them both in it. My friend sent me a video. 20 minutes later, the taxi arrived at the house. There was only Lee in it. She was rushing around when she discovered that her code didn't work. She knocked and rang the bell. I opened the door. She burst into tears. "I'm so sorry, Marty. I just never could have imagined what a mess it was. You don't live here, Lee. Your shit is in the garage until you find a place for yourself. Maybe you'd better go to Elle's house." "Oh, Marty, I have nothing with him. I love you." You openly cuckolded me, made me a laughingstock. Girls at school. God knows what they're going through. You are an evil bitch. Get out of my sight. Her face fell. Staggering, she walked away. She sat down on a chair on the lawn and cried. Our neighbor, Mrs. Cunningham, came out into the street, came over, and they talked. Lee went to her house. I called Lee's mother and told her that Lee was in the neighborhood and could use some support. Ellen, her mother, was not very responsive, but she said she would be there in an hour. I sat down in the kitchen and drank coffee. I tried to imagine what could happen now. Nothing worked for me the night before. I called an attorney I knew and was referred to, family law, attorney Joan Ellis. I called Ms. Ellis's office and made an appointment for the following Monday. Ms. Ellis called me back about 30 minutes later. "Mr. Martin, this is Joan Ellis. You have made an appointment for Monday. Calling because of your wife and basketball player?" "Yes. How did you find out?" "The video doesn't say who she is." "Who she is," the TV reporter found out. "Big Al is the news here, especially the gossip. I thought there was no point in putting it off until Monday. Can you come tomorrow morning, say at 10? "Yes, at 10. Please write for me a brief history of your relationship with your wife and with Mr. Johnson, if you know him. I will also need financial statements if you have them." We finished our short conversation, and she warned me against rash actions. When I hung up, the phone rang again. I answered automatically. It was Big Al. "Marty, I called to try to apologize to you. Fuck you. I will bend over backwards to ruin your life as much as possible. Jerk." Wow, it's not just me. Not only me, but her too. It just happened that way. I was happily married to her before she left for Miami. We have 2 kids. You're a fucking asshole. If you see me coming, run. I said it, not shouted it. There wasn't even much of an accent. Everything was lifeless. There was a long hesitation on the other side, and he hung up. But now I had his number. I went into our phone account, our shared cell phones, and clicked on Lee's call output, checking L's number. I only saw him after she arrived in Miami. Moreover, twice. I did not have access to today's calls. I assumed that their meeting in Miami was accidental and not planned. I checked the Wiz schedule. They played an afternoon game in Miami on Wednesday. Big Al was the MC for the game, so he was in Miami on business. The doorbell rang. I looked out. These were my parents and my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Lee was gone. I let them in and offered them drinks, but they all refused and sat down. I stood at the entrance to the living room and asked, "Well?" My mom, Lacey, responded, "We had a small meeting on the street. We decided to find out what you think." I sobbed, quietly but noticeably, and straightened up, looking at my mother. I guess at that point she gave up. Later, she said that in that look of mine there was so much devastation and melancholy, so much pain that she could not understand how something could be fixed.